What's going on, y'all? My name is Milton Craig Smith III, and this is my very first iteration to the He and Him podcast, a podcast I'm very excited about getting going due to the fact that it's something that God had placed on my heart many years ago in order to speak to gentlemen in particular about what is going on in our society, what is going on with our community, and most of all, what's going on with us that helps us not be the men that God has called us to be. I believe we have to tackle a lot of tough subjects, and it brings me to the subject of today: how to be a man. Now, I know that's a tough one to tackle because, it's complete BS when you really think on it. But at the same time, it's like, wow, how do you be a man? There's so many iterations of men across the globe. And most of the time, if I'm speaking to men in the Western world, we think about manhood in the sense of the United States. But I'm here to tell you, like, manhood has many different shapes and forms. I think there has to be some type of cognizant to it as far as like how to be a man. Now, when it comes down to your manhood, are you shaping it based upon the factor of your environment, how your dad was, how your mom was, how your interactions with your siblings or other men within your neighborhood? If you're doing that, then you're pretty much like 99% of all men out there. If you're not doing that, then you are a special case and you're doing something that I like to call non-obtrusive to the outside world. Non-obtrusive to the outside world, meaning that you are taking care of the idea that manhood is fluid within the lines of what men are supposed to be based upon their maker. So, meaning it has no definition to the point where it is rigid, but it has a definition to the point where it has to flow within the meanings of your maker. If your maker tells you that a man is somebody that can cook and clean, then that means that it's fluid. Either some men can and some men can't. It doesn't mean that if you can't do those things that you are not a man. It just means that you're the type of man who maybe isn't as good at that. You're just not as good at cooking and cleaning as the next man, but it is something that can be learned to objectively give you more credence to your manhood, not to give you more credence to your partner, but to give you more credence to your manhood over your partner. So I would like to start off this podcast first and foremost, not only jumping into the subject, but also recognizing that every person will not agree with me. Every person won't see it as I see it. Every person will not go down the line that I go through. And every person will downright look at what I'm saying and it's complete BS, but that's okay. That's what men are supposed to do. We're supposed to have discourse. We're supposed to disagree. We're supposed to have meetings of the minds. And that is what men are meant for. Now, I'm not an Andrew Tate. I'm not a blue pillar. I'm not here to tell you that you suck. I'm also not here to try to build you up and tear you down. I'm just here to try to look you in your eye, man to man, and just tell you, you have more worth to you than you give to the next person by always kind of like substantially hoeing yourself out to the next person who tells you what a man is supposed to be. I'm not here to do that. What I'm here to do is answer the question in the sense of asking the question, in the sense of us all thinking together of what actually is a man. Because if we really think about it and we really lay it down, then we all can come together to come up with the definition of what we believe a man. And I'm here to tell you that neither one of us is going to be 100% right. So I think that it would behoove us in the comments if we could come up with our own definition of what a man is, or if you could state what you believe a man is. And then men who read these comments and even ladies who read these comments can see what we derive a man to be. Now, the biggest problem that I have in this subject is there are going to be people who think they're right and wrong. I'm here to tell you, manhood is one of those things. I'm telling you, we do not understand. I'm only going to stick on this subject because I am not in the business of trying to find a host to hold claim to what a man is and isn't and find a host to blame. Frankly, I'm not going to do that because it's not fair to you as a gentleman where you don't get the opportunity to even have the conversation with yourself without involving somebody else. How many men out there, right, just need some time alone sometime to kind of get their ish together? How many men out there need some time alone to kind of just think? I think that's pretty much all gentlemen, right? And I'm saying that in a general sense based upon the sample size of men that I know. There's not a lot of men out here who need a lot of or short time to process things. There are a lot of men out here who need a longer time to process things and be able to go through the things that they need to in order to make sure that they have the right answers so they can what? Be a better man or be a better leader. right? So I would like to say to you, every gentleman, every man, you are better than what you have owned yourself up to be in the sense of answering the call of what manhood is based upon the women in your life, your kids, or anything like that. Even society, even a dude like me. You're better than that. So I would ask every gentleman if they could do themselves a solid, do themselves a real big favor, and let's throw out every definition of what people say we're supposed to be, and let's come together as gentlemen in this podcast to understand who and what we are meant to be, i.e., meaning that hopefully we help each other to build community and help each other be better men, not just for our interactions with each other, but our interactions overall, but most of all, the interactions within ourselves. So, fellas, if you would join me in the comments and let me know, what is your belief of what a man is? How do you believe men are supposed to be? What is it that you understand manhood to be? Because I, for one, am going to say, I don't know. And I know I've said that a couple of times in the video already, but I truly don't know. I only know it based upon the experiences that I've had, whether it be something I'm doing myself or it be something that I have experienced with another gentleman in the sense of watching him with his kids, maybe watching him with his wife, maybe me having the experience with my wife at the time, me having the experience with my kids as well. I can only go off that. I can't go off anything else. And I don't necessarily know how else to shape it. Why? Because I, like many young gentlemen, grew up without a father, but mine came based upon the fact that my father passed away when I was 8 years old. And because he passed away when I was 8 years old, I had nothing else left but to go on and try to figure out this thing we call manhood without him. You know what I'm saying? My brother and I didn't always have the closest relationship when I was growing up either. So I didn't necessarily have a lot of things around me in the sense of family to show me what men were and weren't. The blessing that God gave me was this gentleman by the name of Mr. Pearl, Mr. Wilbur Jennings. Mr. Pearl was my next door neighbor. He lived right across the street from me. He helped me see what a man was in the sense of patience. He took me fishing with him. He did all kind of stuff with me and talked to me, even when it came to girls. Now, my grandfather, which is Wilbur Jennings, he has since passed, but he taught me what it was to be a man when it comes down to a woman, how to treat a woman, how to treat a car, how to treat yourself, how to treat your church, how to treat your community. Like, he showed me those things. And most of all, he showed me how to treat another young man. So I learned some things from those two gentlemen. They had the biggest impact on me when I was very young in my life. And then my mother's boyfriend, Mr. Little, he showed me a different side of a man. Very quiet, kind of stoic kind of guy. You know, don't have a lot to say, but when he does speak, he has something to say. Maybe keeps his thoughts to himself based upon the factor of what. And all of that, I didn't know how to present my personality. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to present my person. I didn't know how to, come up with a methodology or a way to be a better man based upon the factor of what some other man was telling me. All I knew at that moment was that I am the person, or quote unquote, I am the man right now who is trying to figure this thing out. And I'm trying to do it through the lens of other men. And I think a lot of gentlemen, we do that because they tell us that our environment raises us. They tell us that our environment is what keeps us and keeps us going and makes us into the person that we're meant to be. And some people would battle that and say, my environment don't make me. My environment didn't raise me. My environment is not what makes me be what I'm supposed to be. It has nothing to do with my environment. It has everything to do with the factor of what I decide. Well, when you think that way, you have to think about, did your environment push you to think that way? Did your environment make it where you believe that you now have to do this or do that? Your environment has a bit to do with what you believe about yourself, but then it becomes about maturity and understanding that in some form or fashion, based upon all the things that I have observed and based upon all the men that I have observed and based upon all the women I've also observed, maybe my environment is trying to show me how I'm supposed to be and I don't have to follow it, but in some ways I do, i.e. it being fluid, right? So again, in the comments, tell me how your environment helps you to even see, right, what you're supposed to be. Help me understand from you, what your environment either did for you or took from you. And if it took something from you, how is it that you are getting it back in the sense of not as nonsensical in your life anymore? Or if your environment gained something or gave you something, how is it that you're helping other gentlemen, you know what I'm saying, to have the same experience where their environment is giving them something? Because I watched a video today about these young men in Alabama. And they claim they're in the trenches, you know what I'm saying? They're in the trenches. They're in the dirty South. They're in the trenches. And those young men those young men showed me something. They said the killing around here ain't never going to stop. Hey, he could have a son right now. I'm 22 years old. He could be 22. He have a son right now. His son's 16. In 16 years, I have his son killed. And that right there let me know that manhood for them is that. But then it begs the question, do we have any type of morality in our manhood? It begs the question, what is it that make men of some walks a little bit more morally sound? And I believe it has a lot to do with the recognition of God in our lives. I believe it has the recognition to do with the higher power. Some men don't believe in God. And it's not my opportunity to push God on you, but this is me telling you that I believe in God. And man to man, if you could respect me believing in God, that would be great, because I respect whatever it is that you believe in, right? I'm not going to tell you what to believe. All I always tell folks is, if I believe in God and you believe in a dog and you believe in the cat and you believe in Buddha and you believe in this and you believe in that, then guess what? One day we will find out who's right, but the only time we'll know that is when we're in the dirt. Before we get there, gentlemen, before we get there, okay, then I would love for us to have a mind melt, if you will. Not necessarily we all think alike, but we all come together at a meeting of the minds and have the general concepts, because when you look at each religion or each way of life, they all kind of have the same general concept, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated. Be kind to your neighbor. Do things the way they're supposed to be do. Some go into the extremes when it comes down to certain things and some don't. But I'm more so of the thought process of the basics. The golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. If you want me to storm in and shoot up your house, then storm in and shoot up my house. If you want me to come in your house, take my shoes off, and be respectful of your space, do the same for my space. It has to come down to something that we do without necessarily a thought pattern based upon the factor of traditionalism, but it has to come down to the fact that us as gentlemen need to be in a space where we are no longer being controlled of the minds of men when it comes down to men who are trying to tell us what to be based upon the factor of lining their pockets. Because when you look at the Western side of capitalism, manhood is either A, to line a corporation's pocket, or B, line a corporation's pocket. Right. So when it comes down to us as gentlemen, as men, we have to have a meeting of the minds in order to build community so that we can go out and build stronger communities. And so that now, not only are we the leaders of our communities, but we're people who have less ego and take the ego out of it, take the pride out of it, and are able to meet face to face and talk about the things that actually need to be hashed out and actually need to be talked about and actually need to be fixed, so that we can go amongst each other and grow together and no longer have this battle within each other that pretty much tears us down. Now, I know what I say sounds like a very, very large feat, because it is, because we as men know more than likely that will not happen, but we don't know how much it will happen if we only sit back and say it won't happen. If we constantly go about our life telling each other what won't happen and, oh, this will never happen, then we'll forever be in that methodology of thinking that it will never happen. Reality is, gentlemen, it can happen. Reality is that we can set ourselves up to be the best man. We can set ourselves up to be great men to one another. We can set ourselves up to have great community. We can set ourselves up to be the leaders and to be conscious of the things that we're doing. We can set ourselves up to be the best. And I ask that every gentleman out there right now take hold to the idea. It may not be perfect, but dang on it, it's worth the damn try. Okay, dang on it, we can put forth an effort and do something great and be great together as men. And if you would take those steps with me, it'd be great. Episode 1 of the He and Him podcast, where we discuss real topics and real things. This is just surface level right now, real topics and real things. And next week, we're going to discuss how to become a man in today's society. Peace out, y'all. Y'all be blessed.